Hail and well met, and welcome to Dungeon Mastiff, a channel about creating original D&D content right here for you. Please consider supporting us on Patreon at Dungeon Mastiff, or subscribing to let us know you've liked this channel. And just a quick note for today, we're aiming to hit 20 subscribers by October, and if we do, we'll be taking a video suggestion from the comments of this video and making it into a video for you. So, if you want a video made for you on this channel, please consider subscribing and comment your video idea on this video. Alright, today I'll be telling you about my top 5 tips for Dungeondraft that you can use to make your maps look even better. Let's dive right in. Alright, and to start our video, let's just go ahead and once again open up that new map, an A3 map, and press OK. And again, let's just think through what we're going to do here. So I'm going to take you through our first tip, which is really quite easy, and it's how to make a realistic looking path in Dungeondraft. So let's go ahead to that terrain option, click terrain brush, and change the dirt to some grass. And if we're doing like a forest kind of scene, you'll usually have, I use grass for most of my maps. Let's just zoom out here. Use grass for most of my maps, and it's just a very versatile background, but what we're really here for is how to make some paths. So let me just go to the object tool and the scatter tool, and then let's find some trees to drop in to just quickly give our map a bit of perspective. Alright, let's just pick all of these trees and we can just start dropping them in. Press S to turn snap off. Alright, that's good. I don't really like that mix of the small trees with the large trees, so let's just stick with the small trees for now. That's great, and just drop them in like that. It's very haphazard, which is just how forests kind of look, so just drop them in however you want, just like that. And we're just getting a rough outline just to show you how easy it is to create paths in Dungeondraft. So let's go back into our terrain brush, and now that we've got those trees down, we can grab the sand tool, and I think for this we'll need to zoom in a bit, just so we get a bit more precision. And then, turning the intensity all the way up to 8, we can instantly lay in just a bit of sand. Let's just turn that down a bit. Alright, and just drop in the sand and the base of your path, which I always recommend should be sand, unless it's in a kind of environment where you don't think that's that should be sand, but usually I'd recommend for your paths in Dungeondraft it being sand. So that's kind of a basic, rough path here. Let's just fill the edges out. And then what we can do to make it look even more realistic is just to turn the intensity down just around 4 maybe, and then with your brush on grass, this is important, or whatever your background is. If it's moss, if we change grass to moss, then you'll have your moss here. So whatever the backdrop of this is, we'll just click lightly and just drag it over the sand, maybe turn the brush size down a bit, and doing this will create some holes in the path, which is like no path, unless it is specifically meant to be, is ever perfect. Like, it's never just straight or perfectly, filled with sand. And this is just to give our paths just a bit more realism, and once you've done that, you just quickly, this shouldn't take too long of a time. Just drop all this grass in really quickly, and then that's kind of it. And then what you could do is you could just go back to sand, turn the intensity down even further, and just touch up a bit of these holes. And that just gives it, again, just a tiny bit more naturalism, since these holes don't really look natural. And yeah, this is just a really easy way to fix up your paths and get them looking much better. And if you really want, if you just really want to get nitpicking into some details, you can just add some gravel around. And that just gives the impression of rocks at the edge of the path. Maybe we just turn the intensity up a bit for this. It gives the impression of rocks at the edge of the path, but I don't usually go for this approach. I like a more smooth path. So yeah, that is one simple tip, one simple way you can improve your paths in Dungeondraft. Alright, so for our next tip, we're back here at the forest, this kind of quick map we created before. In fact, let's just save it really quickly and call it test map. Oop, have to click it there. Test map. test map. Alright, and then another really easy and really realistic way to up your natural scenery skills in Dungeondraft is to go with what I like to call the 3-layered forest. And so we've been doing this technique, and we've perfected it throughout our videos. It was right there in our first video, River Bridge. You should go check that out. But what we do here is we go back to the object tool, and we've got these trees dropped in, which is really nice. These are like the base of our forest. But what we can do is get some shrubs or bushes, whatever you want, and just click the under, and that the under button allows you to drop items in or objects in below existing objects. So what we can do is, forgot to go on a scatter tool here. Yeah, it's important to go on a scatter tool, otherwise you're just going to get a bunch of the same bush. Click under again, and what we can do is just sparsely drop in some shrubs, really haphazardly, really quickly, and then that's another layer to our forest. And because forests aren't just all trees, that doesn't look very natural. And you see our map, if we just zoom out for a second, just get a bit of perspective, it's already looking way better. It's got a lot of, it's getting a bit more crowded. It was looking a bit sparse before, and it's really looking like a dense and thick forest. And alright, let's just zoom back in here. But I think what we need is just a bit of color. And this, the ability to know like how much color you need. Sorry, I was trying to look up flower there. It really, I would suggest using flowers for it. And I turn the spread all the way down to, I use 0. Yeah, and then you just click and drag, and you could just drag these brightly colored flowers all throughout your forest. And this just gives it a way more natural and layered look, which a forest really should have. And I really recommend this technique every time you make a natural scene, because it really helps it look way more natural. And you notice that it's in quite a lot of our maps. If you go to our Patreon page, you'll see quite a lot of our maps have this this technique, this 3-layer technique. And so, just to revise, that technique is tree, and then bush underneath it, and flowers underneath that. It's just that simple. Alright, moving on to step 3 or tip 3. We'll be talking about how we can make our rivers look better. So if we go into the path tool, I've forgotten where that is. It's in the terrain tool, and then scroll down and there's like a little pen icon, the path tool, and we select a cliff. It's for this purposes, we'll just be converting this path we did before into a river. So you just gotta, that doesn't line up very well with the edge. Just double click to end it. Command Z to get rid of it, and then we'll go again, just clicking off the map and starting. Alright, then we just can quickly block in this cliff all the way around, and this will be like the bank of our river, or the edge of our river. Just quickly drop that in, double click to end it, and then we'll have to start from the other side, I think this is how we do it. Yeah, we start from the opposite side that we first started on, and that'll give us the upside down shape. Alright, just quickly drop that in. It shouldn't be too precise unless you're going for that kind of feel in your river, because rivers are kind of, you know, wild and chaotic. And already that looks way better than just like water on this plain grass. Let me just show you what that would look like. Alright, so we grab the water brush, change it to a decently sized circle. Boom, that could be your river. I mean, that's okay if you add some rocks around the edge, but right now it's not looking too good. So let's just get rid of that, just like that. And let's just fill in our river. And I think, again, this doesn't look too bad if we just like follow it all the way through. I generally don't mind if I get water over the edge, because we can just easily remove it later. Dungeondraft is really good with little things like that. So what you can do is decrease the brush size, press Alt, and then it just, you know, highlights whatever you want to remove in blue, and then you just click and drag, and then that removes it for you. So that doesn't look too bad. But I think we just need to add a bit of flow to it. And the way we do that is we go into the object tool, and we look for boulder, because the Dungeondraft naming system is a bit weird. So what we're looking for is really some rocks, but, you know, we'll just look up boulder. Oh, I forgot to go into the scatter tool. Just do that quickly. And here we've got just a bunch of big rocks. So let's go down to the layer -100 below water. So we default onto the user layer 1, And there's many other layers, like below ground, use layer 2, 3, 4 for layering objects, particularly in settlements. I find this is useful. 700 above walls and 900 above roofs. But for this, we'll just be using negative 100 below water. And drop in 3 or 4 big rocks. This is a small rock, don't know why that's there. Just like that. And if we zoom out, okay, that's looking better. That does the trick, as it breaks up, you know, like the monotony of the blue water. Zoom back in, and then what the real trick is grabbing a bunch of these little rocks. And you'll see me do this in a bunch of our videos. What we do is we just click and just move our mouse along. We don't click and drag, because that'll just give us one of the same. And we just, one of the same rock I meant. And we just, like, click rocks around the edge of these big boulders. And these gives us little groups of rocks that really, because you don't see a stream without like little rocks in it or pools of mud and so forth. And if you really wanted to get fastidious with your rivers, what you could do is go into the terrain brush, and instead of sand here, we could grab dirt. And that makes the river look a lot darker, a lot muddier. And with those grassy patches we had before, it just gives makes the river look so good. See how much that's been improved from the last time we got that river. And that's tip number 3. Alright, now coming into tip number 4. What we'll be doing here is a bit of work on housing and making how to make your structures look good. So if we just take out some of these trees here, trees and flowers, and we've got quite a lot of sprites on the map. Press the delete key, and we've just cleared out a little area for where we're going to be doing our test house. Just get rid of these little flowers, just like so. Alright, and we've cleared a little space here. So what we do is we go into the design tool and click the wall tool. Now, I find that when creating shapes for your structures, let's just turn snap on for a sec. When creating shapes for your structures, it is way more important to use the wall tool and then the pattern shape tool underneath it, because I find it gives you so much better control. Let me just demonstrate this to you. So if we have the building tool, we get an option of like what floor to choose and then what wall to choose. Let's just go the default, like a wood setting. Yeah, that doesn't look too bad, but let me just show you how much better it can look with doing this. So we just lay in, click, and then like move our mouse to another edge of a square and click, and once we go back to this original point, it'll end. And then what we can do is we grab the pattern shape tool. And now, let me just demonstrate the texture of these woods. I think this is it's a completely different wood, but in my opinion, it looks so much better. Like, if you take this, for example, it's just a bland up and down. Now, this is a really interesting pattern, because you don't see too many houses with planks going all the way across. I just feel that the wall tool and the pattern shape tool gives you so much more control on like each of the different elements of the house, which is what you should really be I accidentally did the wrong tool, which is really what you should be focusing on, the different elements of the house. We could change the floor really easily without having to redo the whole building, and I just find it's a much better way to make our houses and our settlements with the wall tool and then the pattern shape tool underneath it. It gives us way more control and way better results, and that's tip number 4. Alright, tip number 5. So, the final tip for this video, and what we'll be doing is we'll be talking about how to make our settlements look more realistic. Firstly, let's just drop in a couple of doors. I generally don't use windows because in my maps I feel it just tends to get messed up with doors. Like, windows and doors look a lot alike. So I just stick with doors, but that's okay if you use windows. I don't mind. I just haven't had much experience with them. But one of my main suggestions if you're creating a settlement is that you think about like what are the key architectural points of a real house and try and fit them into a house or a structure that you're creating in Dungeondraft. And I think one of the key points of a house is crisscrossing support beams that these houses have. So if we look up post, that didn't work. Pillar, I think, is what we're looking for. Let's see. We scroll all the way down. Yes, and we get these nice wood pillars. And remember when we were talking about layers before? We can go 900 above roofs. And we just get these... Let's see if that one works better. Yes, these nice pillars that we can put at the corner, the intersection of each wall. And that just gives you the impression of a really realistic map. Like you're looking down through someone's roof. It just looks way better. Like if we take those out, it's just a box with a floor and a door. But if we add these in, it gives us a sense of depth, a sense of scale, and I just think it really improves your build or your creation in Dungeondraft. And that is my last tip and my most final tip. Pay attention to what you're doing and try and relate that to what would happen in the real world for the best results.